Welcome to the Millennial Life Coaches podcast. At MLC, our mission is simple: add value to help you take on massive action towards your life goals. Here, we feature amazing coaches from all over the world, share compelling stories, and discuss proven practices to help keep your energy high and in the flow. Learn more about MLC at millenniallifecoaches.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Get Ahead with Millennial Life Coaches. I am your host, Tanya, and I am joined today by Jason. Jason is with Ryer Labs, and he is a human performance coach. So we're excited to have him on the show and learn all about what that is. So welcome, Jason. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So let's dive right in. Human performance coach. Tell me everything. What does it mean? Just tell me.
Yeah, I think that term gets thrown around a lot, human performance, but what it really means in practice, and I can explain, I guess, the history behind it, what I got into, which is basically my personal story of overcoming my own health challenges in my life. I've always been pretty fit and active, but I started having these strange like heart palpitations perhaps over like 10 years ago. Wasn't really sure what was going on, but it was a little scary. I'm like, okay, I'm like maybe 40-ish years old, almost 40, and feels like something's going on, like I'm having a heart attack. And so I was like,
Mm.
oh, I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to turn. This was before I got into coaching and that sort of thing. And so I tried some different things. And long story short, I got into what's called biohacking. And
Mm.
so found out about this world of bulletproof and the bulletproof diet and biohacking and went down that rabbit hole. And honestly, I've never come out of that rabbit hole. And so I went so far deep down that rabbit hole when they offered a coaching certification, I went for it. So it turned
Amazing.
into it was officially 9 months, turned into about a year of learning about coaching. And I guess for what it's worth, I mean, for the coaches out there, um, the surprise for me was that it was all about coaching because I was all about health and wellness and thought like, okay, I'll learn how to maybe fix people like I was learning and learn to fix myself, right?
Yeah.
So using these practices that I learned around nutrition, sleep, exercise, but then the biohacking stuff, the supplements, the nootropics, all the fun tools and the biohacks. I thought I would be able to just share those with others and fix them as well.
Yeah.
But the program started out with, I think it was 6 to 8 weeks of mindfulness meditation. And I was
Mm.
like, interesting. Okay. So learning how to be mindful and present, which is hugely important in coaching. So it was not about dispensing health and wellness advice, but it was really about coaching. And so setting that foundation. So learning about going deeply into health and just how to have conversations with people, how to ask questions, and how to empower them to really figure out what the problem is and actually take action and ownership to solve that problem. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, I love so much about this and I love that it was your personal journey that started because I find so many coaches that's why we get into it, right? Like we have a problem, we go to fix it, and then the solution becomes we fall in love with this process and we just want to share it with everyone. So I love that that's how you got started in it. And I like that it started with that mindfulness. So couple avenues I want to go down because obviously we want to talk about biohacking and nutrition and all of the things because that's so interesting. But I do want to kind of talk about how you said that it was a lot of like that coaching and that mentality. What about that kind of drew you in even further? Because like mindfulness meditations are such a powerful experience, and it's so interesting how it's so interconnected with our health and our physical wellness.
Yeah. So yeah, that was, I mean, I think it was a surprise for me and a surprise for the rest of the cohort because it was not just me, it was 150 of us going through this program at the same time. And I think a lot of us were really into that kind of biohacking or human optimization and the health aspect of things. And so we said, well, meditation. We're going to learn to meditate for 8 weeks. Seriously. And I think so. So I think there were some reactions like kind of against it, like what is this all about? But then I think quickly realizing, at least for me, realizing the importance behind that. And so what happened for me is I really got into meditation pretty deeply for a few years. And that was really, really powerful for me. And it was a powerful platform just for, I guess, helping myself and then helping myself to help others as well. Yeah.
So what benefits have you noticed physically from going into that place and allowing you to yourself to do that meditation and helping yourself?
Um, I would say really, really getting into that state of presence. And I guess I hesitate to say that because that you can say present, like what does that really mean? And so I guess to explain it, I think for most of us in our modern day, we're up in our head. We're thinking a lot. We're thinking about what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future. And that can be beneficial. It's not a bad thing, but we don't spend a whole lot of time in the here and the now. So instead of getting us, or instead of staying up here in kind of this hamster wheel of thought patterns in our head, we can get more into our body. And how do we do that? We can do things like meditation. We can do breath work. So that's another piece that we can dive into as well, is that I actually got very deeply into breath work. And so I teach that now as a very foundational practice to help myself and others. Yeah.
I love that. And what do you find it is about breath work that allows some, well, obviously like it puts us in our body, it allows us to release stuff. However, like when we're talking about like the human performance side, how does it shift our body in the process?
Yeah, so I think a lot of this is it's a little out there, esoteric, somewhat spiritual in terms of like meditation. So you tell somebody to meditate, that doesn't mean much for a lot of people. So I mentioned I really did get into it and I found a lot of benefit for me with the meditation. But then I got into breath work as well. And so kind of my more like scientific, perhaps quantitative biohacking mind thought, well, how are these different? And maybe which one is better? And that's not the best question to ask because it's which one is better in certain situations in certain ways, right? So I actually had a tool that would measure my state of coherence. Some people might be familiar with this. This is the N-Wave device by HeartMath. And so it takes a simple measure of your heart rate and calculates what's called heart rate variability and then calculates what's called coherence. So state of coherence is going to indicate being more in that parasympathetic state, more calm, rest, relaxed kind of state, and more in that state of presence that I mentioned. So a higher coherence score is generally better. So I could use this device, measure my score while I did breath work, while I did meditation. And so I would do this and look at my scores. And it wasn't a surprise afterwards, but maybe before it was kind of like, I don't know which one's going to be better. But there is a form of breathing called coherent breathing, right?
Uh,
So it's no surprise that when you do this form of breathing, that it gets you into that state of coherence. And so it's a simple practice that anybody can do. And I teach this now to everybody as like the most important form of breath. And the reason being is that it's how we should be breathing all day, every day, all of the time. So it's not just for this coherence score. It's if we think about it, when we're born or you look at a baby, we're just breathing nice, soft, efficient diaphragmatic breaths. And we tend to get away from that as we get older. So it gets back to the things I talked about, being up in our head, thinking about the past, the future, maybe looking at screens like we are now, can take us out of that. And so what happens when we get out of that is we unconsciously, subconsciously, we start to shallow breathe, we start to over breathe. And what happens when we do that is that increases the stress in the body. And when we increase that, we have just a cascade of problems where we're just not as healthy. We're more prone to get sick, and we won't have as much energy. We won't be in as good a mood, and we won't live as long. So when we flip the script on that, when we do things like coherent breathing, we will be in a better mood. We will have more energy. We won't get sick as much, and we'll live a longer life. So, so I think that's kind of the buy-in to do this kind of breathing.
Oh my gosh.
Um, yeah.
That's so powerful how just something so simple as shifting the way you breathe can have such an impact on your lifespan, your body, and really your quality of life.
Mm, mm.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so
100%.
as a human performance coach, so we look at the breath, we look at the meditation. You also mentioned biohacking. And obviously nutrition and exercise. Let's kind of go back to that. So what kind of things for our listeners out there listening, they're like, okay, so I want to change my health, I want to change my body. We're officially in 2026. We want to, make this the best year yet. What kind of steps can I start taking that will allow me to start seeing some results short of making sure that you're working with a performance coach?
Yeah, so doing that breath, that's one thing. So yeah, there's this fancy kind of idea of biohacking, and I've led, so I'm here in Thailand, in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I do a few different things here. I do some of these workshops where I lead people through breath work and ice baths. We just had our monthly meetup where we talk about all things health, wellness, optimization, that sort of thing. And so we started these meetups that I'm doing now 6 years ago as biohacking socials. And so just talking about all things health and wellness. And I realized the term biohacking brings a lot of bias to the table for a lot of people, and it turns a lot of people off. And so one thing that came up that I thought was pretty cool was somebody said, well, it's all these things, we have all these terms, and it really just means being healthy,
Yeah.
right? But biohacking might imply taking some sort of shortcut or pill or using some kind of device or hack, right? To get you to that state of optimized health. And so the way I look at it is, yes, those are cool and those are useful to have these devices, but I take a more nature first approach to it. So breath, right? What's more natural than breathing? So if we can optimize our breath, then we can get healthier. And then there's light, right? So as long as we're getting nice natural daylight, sunlight during the day and turning off the lights at night, we're going to be much healthier. We're going to sleep better. And so sleep is a topic that comes up for a lot of people that's challenging. So
Yeah.
I found that here where I've done these sleep master classes, and people are like, yeah, I need help with my sleep.
That's
And so, and I see how people are doing it so wrong here, especially with I mean, just the lights on at night is a big one.
huge.
And working late, sleeping in, all these things are just going to set you up for poor night of sleep and this cascade of detrimental health that leads
Mhm.
from it. But to get to the biohacks, um, yeah, I take some pills, some supplements, some nootropics to help as well. So I don't rely just on these things. So I'll occasionally do like nicotine for a little bit of a boost, mental boost, right? So this is not smoking, this is not tobacco, this is just nicotine. So I hesitate to put some of these things out there because then this brings up a lot of like questions and again a lot of bias
Fair.
around it, right? But yeah, so there are these pool sorry, these kind of like nootropics and pills and supplements that can be taken, devices you can use. I mentioned the one already for the breath for the coherence score. So that's the M-Wave device. So there's some simple things. I have a light device as well. I have red light therapy that I use as well. So a lot of different things you can use. Electrical muscle stimulation, I have that as well. So that's probably an interesting one, I think, that should just be used across the board for people who just can't move their bodies, right? So if we're in some kind of accident or certainly we're bedridden for any period of time, something we can do is just stimulate the muscles with electronics, right? And keep our muscles a bit more active. So just there are so many different things you can do, so many different ways you can go about it. But I always like it to, like I said, bring it back to the simple. Um, and then there's also, of course, the nutrition part of it. And what I like to do instead of getting into the nuances of nutrition, because that's a very challenging topic for most people, right?
Fair.
Is it the carnivore diet? Is it the vegan diet? Do I follow people like Brian Johnson? If you're not familiar with his whole mantra is don't die. And he has a very specific vegan diet that he follows. Um, and so to that, I would say, well, let's look at the opposite of that. And basically the elephant in the room, which is the big problem for people, is just over consuming.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, over consuming quote unquote bad things, but perhaps over consuming, and I've been guilty of this, the good things as well, right? So we look at the opposite of that, and that is simply fasting
Mm.
in some form, right? And so I'm not a fasting absolutist, although I've done it, I've taught courses on it, I've done 5-day water fasts, but
Oh,
but you
that's
can
impressive.
you can do fasting mimicking diets. You can do all these other interesting diets that are popping up now. The sardine diet. You can do the olive oil. So there's all these things you can do, basically just to allow your body to reset in different
Mm.
ways, right? So there's some powerful mechanisms that come up when we simply stop eating that
Mm.
allows us to reset. Yeah.
I love that. Do you find that fasting is kind of a good place to get started, even if it's just like a short intermittent one, just to kind of let your body adjust and see what comes up?
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's the one thing. It's a good point to bring up because I think a lot of these things people get stuck in this kind of like binary. Is it yes or no?
Yeah.
And my like some people shouldn't fast because of this. I'm like, well, everybody should fast. Everybody does fast. The first meal we eat is literally called break fast, right? So we're all fasting ideally for at least 8 hours while we're sleeping at night. And so then the question is, how much more can you extend that? And
Fair.
what are the benefits? And the answer is it's not going to be any one number for everybody. It's going to be different for everybody depending on your situation. So that's where things like your own self-experimentation comes in or having a coach help guide you through it. Yeah.
Fantastic. So, say our listeners out there and they're like, this is super interesting. I'm loving everything he said. I think I want more guided advice. How would or what does it look like when someone comes to you when they start their journey with you? What kind of things do you kind of walk them through? What kind of is the process that is attached with working with a coach like
Mm.
yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's just asking very simple, open-ended questions from the beginning. So, and probably worth just throwing those out there now, which is, well, what is your biggest frustration? What is the biggest frustration in your health? What is the biggest frustration in your life? Right? And then things come up in your mind, probably. And then you can think, well, what's your next biggest frustration? And then asking, well, what what have you tried to address that? And what is so the favorite question I have is imagining I have a magic wand. So I'll grab my magic wand here, wave my magic wand, and all these challenges, frustrations disappear in your life. What changes? So that's the other question. So thinking about what is possible in
Okay.
my life, right?
I
And then we
love
can work from there with those simple questions to figure out, well, let's put a plan in place to get to that place, that
that.
ideal life, that ideal lifestyle. Yeah.
So it's very one-to-one, very custom experience.
Yeah.
I love that. Cool. So for our listeners out there again, so now they've heard this, they understand, they kind of pondering these questions. Maybe they're like me and they had like That would be amazing. How do they get a hold of you?
Um, my website, the easiest place. So it's my name, jasonryer.com. So JASONRYER.com. Yeah, it's that simple.
Perfect. We'll make sure that's in the show notes below as well. And I will, for our listeners out there that have kind of heard Jason drop some beautiful devices in there, we'll see if he will give us links to some of those as well. So we can let people have access to some of those because the breathwork one definitely sounds very interesting. Um, I want to backtrack a little bit to sleep because
Mm.
I know you had brought it up and you kind of said the sleep workshops. First, are those available only in person or can you access those online?
So those I am putting on hold for now.
Oh, fair.
Um, I mean, I'll help people with sleep with coaching for sure. But I was putting on some local sleep master classes here locally. And so I found out that that's quite interesting for people. So it would draw a nice little crowd. Um, but yeah, I have a lot of irons in the fire right now. And so yeah, the focus now, if we want to get into it, is the background I didn't get into before I got into health and wellness is very much technology. So I've been writing code since I was a kid,
Oh,
and I've gotten deeply in and out of that at times in my life. I ran a software consulting business developing apps, iPhone and Android apps, initially a fitness app, which was a really fun one. Um, and now I'm getting back very deeply into it, but leveraging now the powers of AI and automation, and also leaning on my business background. So I do have an MBA as well. So I have computer science officially studied in university and then business as well. So leaning on all of that and now the powers of AI and automation to help people and helping coaches as well
that's
leverage
amazing.
that for their own practice. So helping them, and it's already helped me in a lot of ways to get clients. So I've set up my own automations and using AI to help me get clients. And so I'm looking at helping others do that as well.
That's amazing. With that, are you just you're setting it up or is there a whole process and a system that goes with it?
Yeah, right now it's very bespoke, like very customized. So I do not have like a product that I can just plug in
Fair.
and you're off and running. It's different for everybody right now, and AI is like the wild, wild west right now.
It
It's
is.
moving very fast. The tools are keep getting better, and there are more and more tools popping up. So it is a case by case basis. Like what are the best tools to use for specific people? And getting back to the business side of things, I mean, AI is not a magic bullet. So it still is about figuring out your business, your process, your systems, figuring out what works, and then leveraging AI to get you there, and then leveraging automation to make it easier for you,
Love
hands
that.
off. Yeah.
So if someone out there is listening, they're like, hey, I really want to talk to him about automations. Can they also do that via your website?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So that would be at ai.jasonryer.com.
Okay. And we'll grab that one for the show notes as well. So it will be down
Okay.
below.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have to start wrapping up our time together, but that before we do
Sure.
that, Jason, is there anything else, any wisdom, anything you'd like to leave our audience with before we do so?
Um, just breathe. That's it.
That's
Yeah.
powerful. Oh, short and
Mm.
simple. Well, it has been such a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. And this has been another episode of How to Get Ahead with Millennial Life Coaches, and we will see you on the next one.